and everybody here, including our host, which is Ivingco, the lab, and of course Nduduzo, and everybody who works with you. My name is Brenda Sisane, and it happens me all the time to just see, how this power that we have in our hands continues to transfer and transmit. And I'm still reeling from the performance, so congratulations, what a great presentation.
Sure.
And everybody has been playing around with this idea, this concept of bridging the ether to the planet, to the planet itself. And today, when I listen to you, electronics, jazz, and hymnal, everything, living, as part of the constellation. And it made me want to ask you a few questions. Firstly, the response to Tiny Desk when the call came, was it like any other medium that you get invited to be part of?
It was, we brought up into this genre really as big fans of the Tiny Desk concerts. I think when I really felt like now I need to make it happen, because these guys have been following me for 7 years, maybe 6 and something years, and trying to get it to work when I'm in the US, but it just wouldn't come together. But then Zwelake, who's the bass player here, sent me a Tiny Desk home by Abdullah Ibrahim. And that's when I was like, man, I really have to respond. The master has said so much, and so that's really the time when it became something way beyond just this platform that has a really healthy following, but it became about how do we respond when a master says something?
Sure.
And even as a matter of fact, I asked NPR if I could do it as solo piano as a direct response to what Ibrahim did, which liberated me in a deep way, because I've been watching the show, and every time I see it, it's really a show in a conventional sense. People are really entertaining and it's beautiful. But Ibrahim did something else in the way that he presented his solo piano and the storytelling bits in it. So in terms of my own formula, or how I put together this suite, was really after studying what Ibrahim had done and trying to think about how do we respond.
Incredible. Thank you very much for also putting him into the conversation. We're going to talk about media at some point, the way media works today.
Sure.
Because I think all of us as practitioners, it's important to understand where the world is going, and when we're sitting with this art and wanting to communicate about it. And this platform itself, has to make us, investigate within ourselves. The one thing that I know, if my American friends ask me, what should I say?
There is a sense in which translation really
loses the meaning.
Yeah, it does injustice in many ways. And one of the exercises actually for Tiny Desk was that they asked me to describe, because they are not allowed to put out content without a translation if it's not in English. So I told them about the violence that such a request would cause already. So I told them, our continent already suffers this being in the third world, and our voices not being heard. And even when we get an opportunity to be heard, we still have to translate ourselves into the English kind of protocol, in a sense that, whenever we use this language, there's a way in which it shapes our discourse. So Vino is really based on onomatopoeia, which is, I think, a deep thing that our languages have in the continent, that they were just based on observation and trying to imitate nature and the sounds that were intrinsically there when people arrived. So people make these sounds, and they produce different meanings each time. So Ivingco is not a thing, it's not a word per se, but it's a sound, it's an expression. It's just like how Muslim Shlomo would have all of these gestures surrounding her vocabulary that had no translations, but they were sounds and they were text, in a sense that they had meaning. But can this meaning be broken down to words? I doubt it.
I'm happy we're here, and I think the reason I'm happy we're here is because I believe that the way in which we transmit knowledge about how we understand, the universe is also important. And I believe this to be the work that you do, whether you intentionally stepped out to do that, but the way you bring, the study of our being into focus is always achieve that. I looked at NPR and I understand that it is a non-profit organization. It is a people-driven medium and it's a listener-driven medium. So they are about the people. So whatever forces are happening within that society, they are distancing themselves because they finance this project. And it takes the license to produce this kind of work.
Sure.
And share the message of the world to its people.
Yeah.
For me, we look at jazz and we look at how we are behind America in like 50, 60 years or something like that. They got to a place where that was important for them, so that they can address how the economic structures, affect the way we want to communicate and build and heal as society. And when I say we talk about media, when I was preparing yesterday to understand where your state of mind is, I had to go online to hear what other journalists are writing about you. And I enjoyed your interview, by the way, with Nekji. And what I liked about that was that people were commenting about how you brought teaching into that conversation. So what I'm intrinsically saying is that these platforms are here for us to use them, opportunity.
Right, I believe so as well, and it's good you should make this example of the chillers, Megji, because I got quite a bit of criticism from my scholarly world. Just even doing it before it was even like published, before they could hear what the contents were, there was already a sense in which, man, I don't think we should be going to these spaces. We represent something else. And I got frustrated by this idea of something else. And it's an idea that lives in jazz as well sometimes, this exclusivity. We are doing something else, you're not gonna get it. And it's okay if you don't. I think I'm on the other side. It's not okay if people don't get what we do.
Come on.
And so when I finished writing my master's dissertation, my mom came to visit. We were still in East London at the time, and I had it printed. And of course, I was just like, I invited her to celebrate this moment. Hi Gogo, and thinking that was gonna be enough, but Gogo says, and I thought she was kidding. I was like, and this is another way in which we don't really realize how much of our societies we represent in this. It's almost like it's oath, like whatever word you say represents your people. And so eventually she insisted that I pulled it out, and she started reading. I say, I'm like, okay, go. And she had specific things that she was thinking about particular subjects. One was the issue about Umselego and this problem of home. And that quite amazed me. And then I did an interview on Kaya FM with T-Bose, who was like, we're gonna talk about your dissertation, but how does it sound like if we're speaking to our generation and people that are just listening? And we had to deal with the issue of language and the denseness of that language sometimes. So in essence, I'm trying to say that there's a great opportunity to utilize social media to do something else. There is an opportunity to really do something else, but it starts with understanding that and again, trouble of translation. Means we belong. So if there is then a responsibility to represent Las Kumakon, which is not a journey. So I think that's my really idea of social media. And I must give credit to Standard Bank actually, because they started my social media really in 2015. And Mom Diane, we used to have long phone calls, her telling me about stuff that they were doing and the need for me to echo those things. And they did some really explorative things that I think have to do with where I am today, however humble that is. But there is a big contribution of the social media, and it played a huge role in getting this message across, starting from listening to the ground, which is 10 years ago now, that really kind of advocated for my philosophical standpoints very early in my career.
Thank you for saying that, and also for adding Standard Bank into the picture, because I think social media is, even what we're doing here, is an extension of that intention, to open up spaces for us to conversate and talk about or understand. You know, Lififi Gladys speaks about depth of thought, and I think we have, when the cell phones broke, like 30, 40 years ago, somebody said South Africa was one of the fastest countries to pick up the cell phone. Our mothers who work in the kitchen somewhere and all of that, where they had cell phones in their hands. So we are pretty suave people, you know. But the question is, with our history and our past of knowing ourselves, you know, are we picking up? Because that's chronology. You know, and so the importance of how we use these platforms becomes very relevant. And for me, just looking at your selection of the repertoire itself was of great interest.
Oh, thank you.
And I wanted you to maybe tell us a little bit about why,
Right, so I guess, you know, I'll have to speak about my teachers quite a lot. It's very important for me. So the idea of coherence and thinking about presentations as kind of forming some type of wholeness is an idea that I get from both Babu Zimnawana and Babu Bengimsele.